This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Thank you for joining us on thetruthcentral.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. You can find me on X at CorsiJerome1, and on Substack, it's JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. We've got Joel Gilbert is joining us today. Joel is a longtime friend. Joel, how are you?
Good to be here. Thanks, Jerry.
And Joel is today in Australia, Brisbane, Australia. He's going to be at the CPAC, and he's presenting one of his documentaries. We'll cover it in a second show. His Al Gore. We want to cover today his new breaking news on Kamala Harris, which I think is really extremely important. But Joel and I have been friends for years, going back, I guess, Joel, about to almost 2008.
2007, 2008. We've been to Hawaii together.
A
couple times researching Barack Obama, and we've done quite a lot of research.
And I've always admired Joel's films. I've been to Joel's premieres and to various of his movie openings in movie theaters, and I've been a very strong supporter of Joel's work. I think he does outstanding documentary work. And his work on Bob Dylan is also very interesting and important. I encourage people to watch it too. It's a real kick in terms of the all you went into about Bob Dylan. Which one of those is your favorite of those, Joel?
Well, I made actually 5 documentary feature films on Bob Dylan covering different parts of his career, starting with his Worldwide Electric Tour in 1966 with Mickey Jones, his drummer on that tour. I covered the religious period, very similar to the 1966 tour. In 66, Dylan went electric, and it was very controversial. On his religious tour in 78, 79, he abandoned his roots in folk music and became a Christian evangelical. So that was equally as revolutionary. So every part of Dylan's career is very, very fascinating, and I covered each one.
And also in Hawaii, we were looking for Barack Obama's, you were researching Frank Marshall Davis being his father, his real father.
Right.
And of course, there's a lot of evidence for that. I think Obama for a while even claimed that Frank Marshall Davis was his father. Might have even found a birth certificate with Frank Marshall Davis listed as the father, for all I know.
Well, his best friend, Keith Kakagawa, who I became friends with, Dylan's Barack's best friend in high school, I became very friendly with. And he actually told me about an incident where Barack, who was very close to Frank Marshall Davis in high school, and Frank would give him money and give him advice and take him to these strip clubs and was his best friend. He told me the story where Barack confronted his mother and his grandparents and said, "Wait a minute, Frank looks just like me. He takes care of me. He gives me money. I think y'all lied to me. I think he's my dad." And that was a big family confrontation where Keith Kakagawa got involved with it, and it apparently got resolved. And you can read about it in a poem that Barack wrote in college, where he talks about this confrontation where Frank admits that he's his dad. So there's a tremendous amount of evidence, the photos. It's clear everyone, even yourself, recognizes that the original nativity story of Barack Obama, that his Kenyan student father went to Harvard and broke up the family after 2 years, is completely false. And Ann Dunham, Barack's mother, took him to Seattle. She was at the University of Washington studying when he was a mere infant. So I think Frank Marshall Davis being the biological father, it makes the most sense. But more important, Davis was the ideological mentor that raised Barack Obama by his own admission. And Frank Marshall Davis was one of the black Bolsheviks, one of these black communists that came out of Chicago, and was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party and a communist journalist. So it's all there.
It's great. I agree with you. I mean, I think that there's no doubt Barack Obama was heavily influenced by Frank Marshall Davis. And according to, we also demonstrated the birth certificate was false. I found the birth certificate from which Barack Obama's alleged birth certificate had been forged, and Sheriff Arpaio researched that with Mike Zullo, the cold posse case, the cold case posse for Sheriff Arpaio in Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona. they had two independent forensic labs of good repute, and at least one of them in Europe, validate that the birth certificate that I found was the one from which Obama's had been copied. So we do not have an original birth certificate from Obama tracing his parentage to the Kenyan Barack Obama and Ann Dunham. And there's just lots of evidence. I wrote a book, Where's the Birth Certificate? And the INS, Immigration Naturalization Service, in those years were saying that if Ann Dunham and Barack Obama Sr. tried to use their marriage and the birth of this baby as a reason to extend his visa in the United States, a student visa, that the INS was going to contest it because the two of them never lived together and there was no marriage certificate found for them. So, I mean, this whole nativity story of Barack Obama is suspect, and I'm not sure even today Barack Obama knows the full truth. He might not.
Well, he knows that he was raised by Frank Marshall Davis, and that was his big ideological mentor that he wanted to emulate. He wanted to be a writer like him. He wanted to be a revolutionary like him. And I think he took that mentality to the White House, and he was always trying to live up to the ideals, the socialist ideals of Frank Marshall Davis. And I think that bears out. You can see it in my film, Dreams from My Real Father. It's still on Amazon and everywhere else.
That's Frank Marshall Davis right there. And the similarity with Barack Obama, you did a great job on really pointing out. And the nose job and everything else that Barack Obama's had done, and to change his appearance. Yeah, but anyway, it's a great story.
Yeah, a big story is the teeth pattern is also very interesting. I had dentists that would write me and say the teeth patterns run in families. And the Kenyan Obamas have these big, wide gap teeth with big, large gaps, short gap teeth. Obama has very tight, straight, long teeth that are a direct match for Frank Marshall Davis. You can see the pictures of the two of them smiling together on obamasrealfather.com. And it's just very, very obvious that Obama is not related to the Kenyan Obamas, but very likely that Frank Marshall Davis is the biological father.
All right, well, let's switch to the Kamala Harris story that you've got. There's Dreams from My Real Father, and that DVD is still available, and I still recommend people watch it. It was great work, Joel.
Okay,
and all your videos are excellent. They're all searches to find the truth, and they're all great documentaries. I've enjoyed every one of them.
Thank you.
Let's switch to today's topic, which is this Kamala Harris, and you've done another, I think, really important piece of investigative journalism, and the story is pretty shocking, actually. It has to do with Kamala Harris's complete disregard of a Black woman and her daughter who was very ill. And the trailers are here. Joel, do you want to give us some background on the story and how you got into it?
Yeah, I noticed that when Kamala Harris was kind of anointed to be the nominee when they removed Joe Biden, by the way, I had predicted in my previous film, Michelle Obama 2024, that Biden would be removed and that Michelle Obama would be the likely replacement. Now, I think that was the plan, and you might have remember from the way that went down is Biden announced he was dropping out, and within 1 hour, he or Jill or somebody tweeted they were supporting Kamala Harris. The Clintons jumped in and said they'd support Kamala, and Obama held out for about a week and a half saying, no, I want an open convention. I want an open convention. He even got Black Lives Matter to issue a statement demanding an open convention. I think Obama thought because Michelle was so far ahead in the polls of Trump and far ahead of any Democrat, all he had to do was wait for 4 weeks for a hometown homegirl convention in Chicago, and the crowd would be screaming, Obama, Obama, and they would put Michelle in there. I think the Obamas got outmaneuvered by a bitter Joe Biden and Jill Biden, by the Clintons, who are still mad at Barack for not waiting his turn back in 2008, and the Obamas got outmaneuvered. So I think I was correct in that. But once Kamala was anointed, she said, I'll put my record as California AG up against Trump's anytime, and she started bragging about that she would prosecute, international drug cartels. So I thought that's interesting because I'd heard I'm from California. I live in California now. I knew that she was not a very popular attorney general. And I started reading about some cases of people that had a big problem with her. And one of them was this woman named Cheree Peoples, who lived in Fullerton, California. And her story was very compelling. I read about it and I went to go visit with her. And she told me the story about how she was a nurse's assistant, single mother, and had a daughter with sickle cell anemia, which was a chronic handicap disease from birth. And her daughter spent most of the time in the hospital. And she had excused absences from the children's hospital, from the doctors, with the, with the county and with the school. But Kamala Harris, when she came on the scene as California Attorney General, she started bitterly complaining that California schools were losing money because of truancy. Because at that time and to this day, they get their funding based on average daily attendance. At that time, they would get $30 per day per student that was in school, state and federal money to the schools. So Kamala started complaining they were losing $1.4 billion a year. She wrote a law saying that she was going to arrest parents, put them in jail if their kids miss school. And she even admitted that it was mostly black kids that were truant. They were the top truants was black and white boys and black boys and girls. So she knew that it would disproportionately affect black mothers and single black mothers. So I decided to go do an interview with Cheree Peoples, and she told her whole story in 13 minutes. We made a 3-minute trailer version and a rap music video as well, which is fantastic, and put up this website called arrestedbykamala.com. And the video is so popular, it's gotten millions of views on Twitter, on YouTube. It's been picked up by like the Cartier family, is a very popular black influencers. And even Donald Trump posted it twice on Truth Social. So this is a story. When people watch this film, they are very angry because they realize how callous Kamala Harris was to the minority community, to the black community in California. She laughed about prosecuting parents. She's on tape. She says, I'm sending my homicide prosecutors and my gang prosecutors, and I'm telling them to be very mean to these parents. Ha, ha, ha. She starts laughing. So you get to know the real Kamala Harris when you see her policies in California and how she obnoxiously and callously prosecuted parents if their kids missed too much school. And here you have a parent whose kid had excused absences and was arrested, fingerprinted, spent 2 years fighting in court, lost her job, lost her home, had to move into a motel. And it was 2 years later, after trying to get her to plead guilty, that they gave up. And then the California Supreme Court ruled that Kamala Harris's policy to arrest parents for truancy was unconstitutional. So it really gives you a definition of who Kamala Harris is. She doesn't care about the law and the rules and has no empathy. She's just driven by these ideological ideas and doesn't let anyone get in her way. And Cheree Peoples is a brave story of a woman who stood up to her.
I mean, it's pretty compelling. Well, Chris, if you'll play the 3-minute trailer in a minute, you can go back to the homepage of that website. And Joel, what is this website again?
John, arrestedbykamala.com. You've got the full 13 minutes. And then right below that, there's a link that says watch the 3-minute version.
Right below
the top video. Below the top, right there, it says watch that. Then you can watch the whole thing.
We'll play that in just a second. Hold on for a second. I want to also comment that, I mean, Joel has done this a very compelling story. And I think the testimony of these people, especially the mother and the daughter aspect to this, is a human story that, it really touches your heart, that what these people went through. And to think that Kamala, in terms of money and her supposed devotion to helping Black Americans, this calls into question her fundamental dishonesty. And what people don't realize about Kamala is that how radical she is. Trevor Loudon has done extremely good work on demonstrating that she comes as a Maoist. She's a radical Maoist, a follower of Chairman Mao and the Great Revolution and the Cultural Revolution. He's not a strict Stalinist or, she's a Maoist. And that's a distinct form of communism that goes along with this cultural warfare to, destroying capitalism by destroying the culture of capitalism. And so
let me comment. Let me comment about her alleged support of minorities, and she's definitely trying to appeal to the Black community by doing these speeches where she puts on a phony urban accent and claims to have been Black at some point. Kamala has no common experiences with the Black community, none whatsoever. Her parents were two foreign students. She grew up in Canada. A lot of people don't know that. Kamala grew up in Canada in a Jewish neighborhood and went to a wealthy high school. She really did not even grow up with American values because in her formative years, she was in Canada. She didn't know about individual rights and the Constitution, none of that. So when she claims that she has something to offer the Black community, I think they should be very suspicious of it and listen to what Cheree Peoples had to say, because I think Kamala is no friend of Black Americans.
That's extremely important work you've done here, Joel. Let's play it. Let's play this 3-minute trailer. I think it tells the story very well. Go ahead, Chris.
I intend to fight for Black Lives Matters. I intend to fight.
If Black Lives matter to her, why didn't I matter?
Because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding.
I want money.
I don't agree what my Kamala Harris did to my mom.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
And I spent a majority of my time here at the hospital.
When Kamala Harris was the California Attorney General, she had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I have sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a hereditary disease, and it is very, very painful.
In 2012, like all California parents, I received a threatening letter from Kamala Harris saying, "We'll go to jail for a year if our kids even miss 10% of school days." Little did I know, there was a warrant out for my arrest. All of a sudden, the police is outside my house and they started banging on the door. They told me I was under arrest for my child missing school. I was shocked. I said, "But my baby is sick. The school knows that." And they said, "Go talk to Kamala Harris. Place your hands behind your back."
My mom did nothing wrong. We did everything we were supposed to. I was always bringing doctor's notes, always calling the school to let them know that I was in the hospital.
But my hell was just beginning. They gave me 2 charges. I spent the next 2 years in court fighting these charges. Kamala assigned her nastiest prosecutors to my case.
My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, "When you go over there, look really mean."
All the time I had to spend going to court, I was struggling to care for my shame.
We are going to make sure that you face the full force and consequences of the law.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
And I ended up being in the hospital a lot during her trial. And in that hospital stay was when I had my stroke.
I had a stroke about 4 or 5 days ago. And right now I'm doing pretty good. My hand is doing okay, I guess.
Let's be clear, my values have not changed.
Look, I am not a political person, but I want people to know what Kamala Harris has did to me. If she do it to me, she will abuse anyone if you give her the power.
The truancy program got a lot of criticism too. Did you actually lock anybody up?
No, we never locked anybody up. We did prosecute some cases, but far few, only about 20.
My message to all Americans, especially Black Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
Well, it's very powerful, Joel, and it's a very powerful story. The hypocrisy, and I can't. Kamala Harris's inappropriate laughter.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anybody laugh like she does at making the kinds of points she's making. I send my worst prosecutors over to deal with these cases, and that's funny.
Well, she said, and I told them to be really mean to these parents, and then she bursts out laughing. So I think it really helps reveal Kamala's behavior as California Attorney General. She was a person just trying to climb up the political ladder and didn't care who got in her way. And I think as a U.S. Senator running for president in 2019, she kept the same type of theme where she would say things like she was just going to impose her ideas on people, doesn't matter who it hurts. She talked about, we're going to give illegals health care, and we're going to get rid of plastic straws, and just about every wacky thing you can name. She said, I'll get rid of the filibuster so we can have universal health care. She'll just blow anybody away. She's, I look at that video and I say, that's a 5'2" tall tyrant who really doesn't understand or care about the law and individual rights. And again, I think it may be because of her lack of experience in American values and American life. Growing up with two foreign student parents, growing up in Canada, she just lacks any common experience with Black Americans or even all Americans, that she can come up with these policies that she's just going to force everybody to do what she says.
Well, last time she, when she ran for president, 2019, for the 2020 election, no one liked her. She didn't win. She was one of the very first to drop out, and she even the reports we get from her from the White House is even her staff, like something like 90% of them have quit. I mean that.
Well, that's been the theme. That's been the theme in California. She got to be U.S. Senator. Pretty much they chose her for this path based on race and gender. Back in 2009, I've seen multiple interviews. In 2009, the interviewers were gushing over her saying, you're the next female Barack Obama. And she would smile and blush. And she did everything she could to use that. The problem is she doesn't have the substance. When she ran for president in 2019, she was anointed by everybody as the next president. And then once people started listening to her and focusing on her and getting to know her, they didn't like her. And she had to end up dropping out of the race. Same thing happened as vice president. Every time she showed up somewhere or did something, she kind of turned people off. So I think that's what's behind the strategy of her handlers, not to expose her to press conferences, not to expose her to, serious interviews, because they know that she's not likable and has no appeal. It's my opinion that Kamala has no appeal, or vice presidential candidate has no appeal. And they're trying to run this campaign and run out the clock on fumes. And we have a lot of concern whether the 81 million vote gang that got Biden into office is there planning to do the same thing.
Well, and she was always favored by Obama. I mean, when you say, why did she become vice president? There was Obama's choice for her to be vice president. And it was Obama's combination of Biden, who was obviously beginning to lose mental capacity even from the very beginning of his presidency, and Kamala, who was loyal to this inner circle around Obama, but yet not part of Obama's policy circle, just kind of in her more of the social circle. And and this is a woman who is essentially slept her way to the top. That whole story is very sordid. With you can tell it better than I can, Joel, from California, but she is not the most wholesome person you can think of in terms of her morals or her ethics. Joel, you want to comment on that?
Well, yeah, I think in terms of the Obama connection, she certainly represents or seems to represent somebody that will pretty much do as she's told, that will go along with the program. And in that manner, she represents a tool for the far left to continue what they had going with Joe Biden. No one believes he was really president. I mean, he'd show up on a Monday morning, he'd read a teleprompter. On Tuesday, he'd sign a couple executive orders. By Wednesday night, he was back in Delaware on vacation till the following Monday. So it's clear that the agencies, Obama, other people were running the office of the executive branch. And I think Kamala represents to them someone who has very little substance, who believes in these far left platitudes that will simply follow instructions. And that's what we're all concerned about, if somehow they have a path to the White House, because I don't think they have a path with votes, because she's so unappealing. And so too are her policies unappealing, and her record is unappealing. So we're going to find out in a few weeks if we live in a revolutionary socialist police state, or if America is still free.
Well, also the split between Hillary Clinton and Obama has been part of this whole story. Hillary in 2006, in 2008 election was not happy at all to see Barack Obama come on the scene as a newcomer, and she was back then considered to be the heir apparent to run for the presidency. And so therefore, in 2008, Barack Obama, newcomer on the scene, and with the hip hop and all the charisma and the positioning of himself with this Dreams for My Father and the bizarre story of Kenya and all the other, he was going to be the bearer of light. He was going to be, the waters were going to part. We're going to enter into a fundamental change of America, hope and change. And it was all hype, but yet he was the one who succeeded in the primaries. And I don't think Hillary ever forgave him for not recognizing this was her turn, and he was a newcomer on the scene. He should have waited his time, according to Hillary. And so that fight has been at the heart of why I think you are right that Michelle probably was the candidate that Obama had in mind, which was the subject of your most recent documentary. And yet they were outmaneuvered by the Clinton faction, which is still remarkably holding these Clinton initiatives, coincident with the United Nations meetings in New York over the past week or so. Joel?
Yeah, there's no question that the Clintons and the Bidens have been around a lot longer, and they did join together to anoint Kamala, I think, to get back at Obama for removing Biden, and because of the Clintons being upset about Barack preventing Hillary from becoming president. So the Bidens and Clintons, it was kind of like this mafia turf war behind the scene. They pushed out Michelle, who, as I documented, I believe had prepared to become president by copying everything Barack did. Why would she have done that? Barack had a voter registration organization called Project Vote in Chicago. Sure enough, Michelle had a voter registration organization called When We All Vote. Barack wrote 2 autobiographies. Michelle wrote 2 autobiographies. They were very, political, changing her whole life story.
Right.
And, Barack was the keynote speaker for John Kerry in 2004. Sure enough, Michelle was the keynote speaker. That's the position that the Democrats give to the person they think will be the nominee at the next convention. There was Michelle introducing Joe Biden. So I think she prepared for the moment, and she got outmaneuvered, and the Democrats are stuck with Kamala Harris, who has no charisma, no appeal. She's a poor politician. They never should have crossed her over from being an attorney general. She's somebody I think they could have made her attorney general one day of the United States in Democrat administration. She doesn't have the skill of a politician, doesn't have the personality for it, and that's why she keeps stumbling. But if you watch Arrested by Kamala, go to arrestedbykamala.com, you can see the full 13-minute film interview. You can see the trailer again, which you saw. And there's even a 3-minute music rap video that's fantastic. That's like #1 trending on TikTok.
Yeah, I want to play a little bit of that. So if you can get that queued up, Chris, I'd like to hear a little bit of the hip hop version of this.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital.
Kamala, I have a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up and threw her in a cell? Her daughter has anemia, some call it sickle cell. She missed too many school days, so you locked her mom in jail. Kamala, I got a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up? Her daughter wasn't feeling too well. She had sickle cell anemia. It attacks her red blood cells. When she was down sick in the hospital, you put her mom in jail. Single black mom in LA, struggling just trying to make it.
And we're gonna do it again in 2024.
Now you pandering for the black vote, so now you claim half Jamaican. You race flip for occasions. You say you were East Asian. You never cared about no America. You allowed this invasion. Kamala, Communist Kamala, I have a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up and threw her in the cell? Her daughter has anemia, some call it sickle cell. She missed too many school days, so you locked her mom in jail.
I want money.
You know what's funny? Kamala be loving the money. She was willing to lock up the parents they say for truancy, $30 per day.
I'm gonna start prosecuting parents for truancy.
Don't take my word, just ask Cheree. That's how schools in California get paid. Brought to you by the California DA, Miss Kamala.
They kept pressuring me to plead guilty and spend a year in jail.
Kamala, Communist Kamala, I have a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up and threw her in the cell? Her daughter has anemia, some call it sickle cell. She missed too many school days, so you locked her mom in jail. Cheree had to fight till she was broke. Her little daughter Shayla had a stroke.
My hand is doing okay, I guess.
Kamala Harris ain't nothing but a joke. She locked up blacks over marijuana smoke. But let me get back to the details. Cheree spent 2 years fighting jail. She lost her job and got evicted. It's a true story, it ain't scripted. And the word that's around town, that laughing hyena got passed around. Who's Mr. Willie Brown? You can go ask Judge Joe Brown. But back to my story.
I don't agree what my Kamala Harris did to my mom.
Shelley was traumatized. I seen the pain and hurt in her eyes. Kamala should apologize. Kamala, Communist Kamala, I have a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up and threw her in the cell? Her daughter has anemia, some call it sickle cell. She missed too many school days, so you locked her mom in jail.
My homicide prosecutors said when you go over there, look really mean.
Kamala, Communist Kamala, I have a story to tell. Why you locked Cheree up and threw her in the cell? Her daughter has anemia, some call it sickle cell. She missed too many school days, so you locked her mom in jail.
The truancy program got a lot of criticism too. Did you actually lock anybody up?
No, we never locked anybody up. We did prosecute some cases, but far few, only about 20.
My message to all Americans, especially Black Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
Very strong. That both of the production, 3-minute, and the trailer, and also the music version are very, very good.
Thank you.
And I think, Joel, that they've again revealed the hypocrisy that's at the heart of this Democratic Party. It doesn't really care. It does not. It will exploit anything. It will cheat and lie and steal and destroy America. The fundamental change of America that Obama really envisioned was to destroy America.
I agree. Look, they need 95% of Black voters to get their candidates into office. And I think especially Black males are catching on. And here's the story of a Black female, a Black woman, who tells you what Kamala is really all about. You know, from my film, There's No Place Like Utopia, Democrats have been in control of urban America, most big cities, for 50, 60 years. And all they brought the Black community was a drug culture, crime, welfare, lack of jobs, misery. So we'll see if in this election they're going to make a different choice, because the Democrats, I think, simply use them for their votes while doing nothing for them.
Broken families, no fathers, no God, no religion. I mean, the Black family used to be one of the pillars of strength, and the Black church used to be, going back to the 1940s. I remember reading, Gunnar Myrdal's classic works on, the American dilemma, and really documenting the strength of the Black family, the strength of the Black church is why the Black community was sticking together. And destroying that has done tremendous damage to many, many millions of Black youth that have grown up without two parents and have grown up in unstable urban conditions filled with drugs and crime. And the Black on Black violence is the whole negative, self-destructive, suicidal almost policies of the Democrats show that they have no regard for human beings as human beings, no regard for God, no regard for human souls or human life.
Well, Cheree Peoples, I think, is the latest testament about their latest candidate. She said, my message to all Americans, especially Black Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris. So everyone, please go to arrestedbykamala.com. There's actually a GoFundMe there for Cheree. She's still struggling. Her daughter's still in and out of the hospital, even to this day, with sickle cell anemia. If you can help her out, please do. But watch and spread all those videos on social media. And I think it's an education, and she does provide it from her own firsthand experience.
Well, thanks for joining us, Joel. This has been a great interview. And Joel Gilbert, documentary maker, filmmaker, I think has really risen to the top ranks of documentary work. And Joel, I commend you again for producing something that is compelling, unfortunately also entertaining in a dark way.
Right.
But compelling, and I think a strong statement that needs to be seen by America before we vote here in the next few weeks. So again, I commend you, Joel. Thank you for the work you do, and let's stay in touch. I want to do another show featuring on your new climate documentary, which I think is equally brilliant.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Joel. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Always say in the end, God always wins. God will win here too. And we need, in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, to repent, to ask God to forgive us for letting the country get to the point where we've taken God out of our schools, out of our homes, out of our lives, out of our morals, where we have killed so many children in the womb, butchered them in the womb after Roe v. Wade. We need a reform. We need a revival. And it begins with each one of us getting on our knees and saying to God, forgive us for having abandoned the true way. This is Jerome Corsi. We'll be back tomorrow. We're doing podcasts every weekday on the truthcentral.com. Thank you for joining us. God bless.